Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Derek, and today we're going to be doing a workflow comparison between the Korg Kronos and the Yamaha MODX, and specifically in this video I'm going to be comparing the sequencer in the Yamaha MODX and the sequencer in the in the Korg Kronos. I do want to say right off the bat that this is a talking video. This is not a playing video. It's going to be more talking and instruction and so on and so forth, and comparing a specific parameter in both of these keyboards. If you just want to hear what the keyboards sound like and you just want to hear somebody playing it, this is probably not the video for you. However, if you are a person who likes these kind of in-depth videos where we talk about the keyboards in depth and go over, their various parameters and so on and so forth, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell icon so you get a notification whenever I upload new stuff, because I am always doing so. Let's get into it. First, we're going to start with the Korg Kronos. The Korg Kronos features a fully featured sequencer. And when I mean fully featured, I mean fully featured. You get 16 tracks of MIDI, but you also get 16 tracks of audio as well. So I could literally take a microphone and I could record myself singing over tracks. I could plug in a guitar if I wanted to. I could mic up a saxophone and play a saxophone and have that in here as well. I can upload WAV files, add them to the sequencer, all kinds of different things. I could take 16 tracks of MIDI, record my 16 tracks of MIDI, convert the MIDI into an audio track, and then bring that audio track back into the sequencer, clear my MIDI tracks, and have 16 fresh tracks. It just gets to be mind-boggling, the stuff that you can really do. It is really a fully featured sequencer for sure. And there's just a ton of things that you can do. Each track is going to get its own EQ. That's each audio track gets its own EQ, and each MIDI track gets its own 4-band EQ as well. And then of course you have your 12 insert effects, your 2 master effects, and 2 total effects. Now I have another video up. The video that came just before this one goes over how the effects work in the Korg Kronos. If you're really curious about effects and routing and so on and so forth, that would be the video for you. And I compare the way the effects work in this board with the effects in the MODX / Montage. They basically work the same. So but something I wanted to go over that a lot of videos don't really go over when it comes to the Korg Kronos is I want to go over the pattern sequencer, or what is called the RPPR. Basically, this gives you the ability, this sequencer gives you the ability to record, do a pattern recording. So the Yamaha MODX, it has a pattern sequencer. It doesn't have a traditional linear sequencer like this one, so you can record in a linear fashion in the Korg Kronos, as well as you can record patterns. Now, the pattern sequencer works a lot differently. Literally what you do is you record loops in the pattern sequencer. You're going to record some loops. Well, I'm going to record some loops here, and then you can just apply those loops to various keys on the keyboard to trigger those loops. So it's great for live if you want to trigger loops and stuff like that. You just hit a key and the loop goes and just continues to go until you actually stop the loop. So anyway, I'm going to give you a demonstration here of how that works. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and let's just do a different song. There we go. Make sure we have a fresh song. And I'm just going to choose a different piano sound here. So I'm going to do an acoustic piano. And let's see. We're going to do, which piano do I want to do? Come over here. Let's grab the Oasis piano. That's perfect. Looks like the polarity on my on my sustain pedal is backward, so I'm just going to come into my global parameters here. This is not really a part of the video, not supposed to be, but you can change the polarity like that. Perfect. All right, now we're going to go back to my sequencer. Perfect. All right, so let's start. Let's do a little pattern here. So I'm going to start with pattern number 000. Hit enter, or not enter, but click on it. All right, and we're going to do MIDI track 1. And then I have to come into my parameters here and have to go to my pattern parameters, say how long I want the loop to be. I'm going to do a 4-part loop. Hit OK, and I think we're going to do a tempo of 100. Excellent. I can also do a tap tempo. I could tap the tempo in if I wanted to. And I think we're ready to record. It's going to give me a 2-bar count-in by default. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now I got my first loop recorded. Now I come back into my this section here, the play record section, and I'm just going to choose a different instrument for track number 2, and this one is going to be a bass. So let me grab a bass here, and I'm going to do an electric bass, and we'll do this one. Enter. All right, now I got my bass selected, and I got to select track number 2 here. All right, so we got my bass selected. Come back into my pattern parameters here, and I'm going to say I want to record my second pattern. So I'm going to go to user pattern number 1 versus user pattern 0. And track number 2 is already selected. I'm going to hit my pattern parameters, and this one is going to be an 8-bar loop. So I select 8, and perfect. I think we're ready to record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now we got that recorded. Now let's go back here to my play record. I'm going to do track number 3. I'm going to grab some drums here. We'll do the studio kit. All right, hit OK. We got our studio kit selected. Come back into my pattern parameters. Now let's go here real quick. Let's just make sure that's selected. MIDI track number 3. Now let's go to my pattern. Pattern number 3. Boom. Nope. Pattern number 2. There we go. So now I'm going to record a third pattern, and I'm going to come up here to my pattern parameters, and let's say I'll do an 8-bar loop for this one instead of just a 4 as well. And then we hit record. So I can actually hit the quantize. I could quantize it. I could do it while I'm recording. It could be quantizing as I'm inputting it in. I'm just going to leave the quantize off for now and see how well we do. Let's go. Here we go. 3, 4. All right, I think that's good enough for what we're doing here. All right, so what we're going to do now is I have to actually assign those 3 patterns to keys on the keyboard so I can trigger them. So what I'm going to do is I got to come over here into my pattern setup, and my first one is pattern 00. and it's MIDI track 1. And I'm going to change manual to endless because I want to be able to hit the key, and when I trigger it, that it will just continue to loop. Because if I have it on manual, once I let up off the key, it will no longer loop anymore. And if I have it on once, I can hit the key, it will go through it once, and then it would stop. But I want it to actually keep looping over and over again until I tell it to stop, which is why I'm going to select endless. So I select endless there, and I want it to sync to the measure. That just makes it easier when you're, for me, when I'm, when I'm trying to have everything in sync. I want it to sync to measure versus beat, so everything kind of stays in sync. And then I have to hit assign. So now that is specifically assigned to the C#2 key. And then I hit the key again and it stops. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the next track. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to say we want our next pattern, and then we want MIDI track number 2. And we're going to change manual to endless and change this to measure as well. And then we have to hit assign. So now this is assigned to D2. Hit the D key again and it stops. And then we're going to do our last one, which is going to be our drums. I hit assign. We're going to say pattern number 2 here, and it's going to be MIDI track number 3. I'm going to change the manual to endless, and we're going to do the sync to measure. So now we should have that one. All right, so I can really come back in here into my pattern record section, and I hit this little icon here. This is RPPR, and now I can just, by hitting the key, I can trigger the loops. Bring in the bass. Bring in the drums. I can stop all of them at the same time. I can stop one of them. So really, your imagination is really your only blocker there. You can loop whatever kind of channels you want to loop, and just trigger them, and that's great for live playing. I've seen a lot of people use that feature for live playing when they're playing different stuff and they want to trigger loops or patterns or different things like that, and that's how you do it with the pattern sequencer. So now let's go over like the regular linear sequencer. And kind of show you how that works. So I'm just going to pick a new song. I want to start fresh and new so nothing gets in the way. And let's just pick another, piano. Acoustic piano. Let's find that same piano that I had. Where are we at here? Oasis. Boom. There we go. Hit OK. Excellent. So now we're just going to show you, I'm just going to show you how the linear sequencer works. This is like your basic linear sequencer. It's not really basic. I mean, there's nothing basic about the sequencer at all, but we're just not going to be doing loops. Now, it has several different parameters. You can do overwrite, you can do overdub. Overwrite overwrites everything in the track, so it erases whatever you recorded before then. Overdub is going to add to what you already have recorded in a track. You could do a manual punch in, so you can just punch into punch in and record when you want to. You can do auto punch in, where you set your specific measures. So you can, say, I want it to start recording at measure number 4, and then at measure number 8 to stop. You could do that if you want to, or you could loop all tracks, so you record in a loop. This will be something good for, say, drums. Maybe you want to record just the kick by itself, then it will loop back. After 4 measures or 8 measures, whatever you set it to, and then you can record your snare, and then it'll loop back, and then you can record your hi-hat, and so on and so forth. But you're not really actually recording a loop per se. You're still recording in the linear sequencer. You're just recording in a loop fashion. So anyway, we're just going to do overwrite. Just going to do like the basic one here. Pre-count is going to be 2 measures. Great. And let's set this tempo. We're going to set to 90. All right, now let's record something here. 2, 3, 4. All right, so now we got that recorded. Play it back. All right, perfect. Now I'm just going to select a different instrument. Now you can actually select instruments in the Korg Kronos, because when you select instruments the way I've been doing them, they're going to be completely dry. They're not going to actually have any effects, but you can actually select them a different way. So you can come up here into the program mode, and I can come and pick, let's say I'm going to pick a bass sound out of here. Bass, and we're doing electric bass. And we'll do that same one that I had before. And now that it's selected here, this electric bass, I can come back into my sequencer. I'm going to select track number 2, and then I say copy from program. And when I copy from program, I can just hit this. I want to use the insert effects, all the used insert effects from the program, and we're going to put it into track number 2, and then hit OK. So now whatever insert effects, you can see there's some insert effects in here for track number 2. It has 2 different insert effects. Those effects are now these effects, the stereo parametric EQ, and then a little bit of chorus there. Those are now on the bass sound, rather than it coming in completely dry. So you can bring them in so they're not dry if you want to, or you can bring them in dry and add effects later on down the road if you wanted to do it that way. So the Korg Kronos has multiple ways of working, and you can kind of pick your workflow. It's really very, very flexible. All right, cool. So now let's go. Let me just go ahead and record something here, record some kind of a bass part. So I messed up. All I have to do is hit compare and then record again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. So I made a few mistakes in there with the bass part, but you kind of get the gist of it. Really, in reality, if I wanted to, I could come over here. I could do track edit. I could come down here, hit this menu here, and I could hit event, MIDI event edit. That's the wrong one. MIDI event edit. Nope. Is that what I want to do? Yep. And say okay. And I could literally come in here, and it has every single one of my notes, and I could actually change the velocity. I could completely delete it. I could change the note itself. So you don't have to necessarily record everything exactly perfect. You want to get it as perfect as possible, so that you don't have to necessarily go through this process. But if I was literally using this and wanted to use it, I would come in here and change some of the notes and stuff that I hit wrong, and maybe change some of the velocity on different notes and stuff like that, and really dial in what I wanted to do. But we don't need to do that for here. I'm just kind of showing the workflow, so I'll just live with the mistakes there. And let's go to track number 3, and I'm going to choose drums and hit enter. Boom. And then select track number 3 up here. All right, excellent. And I'm going to start at the very beginning, and let's put some drums on here. All right, so that's basically how the linear sequencer works. And of course, you can mix everything down the way you want it to. You can add various effects over top of your mix. You could take measures, and you could copy measures over and over again, loop measures, add more instruments, all kinds of different things, EQ everything. I mean, it gets to be absolutely crazy, all the stuff that you can really do inside of this board and really produce a final product. Again, this is a full-fledged sequencer, 16 tracks of MIDI, 16 tracks of audio, and you just have at it. So that's the basic workflow of the MIDI sequencer in the Korg Kronos. Now let's take a look at the MODX. All right, so now we're going to go over the sequencer in the Yamaha MODX, and I want to say right out the gate with this sequencer, it is a pattern sequencer, and it's only a pattern sequencer. So it doesn't have the traditional linear type of recording. In fact, I wouldn't even say that this is necessarily a full featured sequencer. It has a lot of features for sure, and there's a lot of stuff you can do in it. But it you get 16 tracks of MIDI, but you don't get like the 16 tracks of audio and stuff as well. So there's no bouncing to audio tracks or bringing in wave files like a whole song and tracks and stuff like that and playing over the top of them, stuff like that. So you don't have those abilities. So as far as the comparison of the two, really the Korg Kronos is really a fully featured sequencer. And I think what Yamaha had in mind was that this would be something quickly that you could use and stuff as well. And you can definitely produce some finished products and stuff on here, but they are, considering people are, working with DAWs and so on and so forth. But let's go ahead and get into it because it is a very good sequencer. So right now I just have a just an initialized patch here, but what I'm going to do is let's select a different piano. So I'm going to go into my category search here, and we're just going to choose a piano, and there we go. Let's record this. I'm going to go over to play and record, and I have my I can set up my parameters and stuff right here. And so you can do 4/4 time, and right now it's in position 1, and right now it's set to a pattern length of 4. Yep, that'll work for now. And I'm just going to set this to 100 maybe. Perfect. And then literally all you do is you hit record and hit play. So I didn't like that, so I can just hit undo media record. It's going to undo it. You get one thing of undo, one level of undo, and I'm just going to try it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Still didn't like it. We're going to undo it one more time. Let's try it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. So now we have that set. So now that's just going to keep looping over and over again. Perfect. Now I'm going to come in here and select a bass sound. So we hit bass, and I'm going to do an electric bass, and we're going to do this one here, and hit OK. So now we have our bass. And 4-bar loop again. We do 4. And here we go. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to add drums, go to the next one here, and we're just going to come over here, hit my drums. We'll choose this kit and hit enter. And yeah, we'll record. Record 1, 2, 3, 4. right, so now we got that recorded. So I got my first little loop here. Now, if I wanted to look at some of the more features, so you get an overall view of your sequence here. But I can come in here and I can adjust various notes. So I can do the velocity. I could do the gate time. I could create a crescendo. I could transpose a part if I wanted to. Let's see, I could come in here with the tracks and I could, adjust the tracks if I wanted to. We can do in exchange, we can mix, we can append, we can split. We have, our song. Anyway, so there's, a variety of different parameters and stuff here. I got my play effects where you can, add your various effects and stuff like that to your various tracks. So there's a lot of parameters and stuff that you can use here for sure. A lot of stuff that could be very useful to you. It's not going to be as many options as you would have in the Korg Kronos, but it's a fair amount here, and you can produce for sure a nice finished product. So let's go back here. Let's get out of here. And I'll show you one of the features that I really, really like about this is that what I just recorded here, all of that loop is assigned to scene number 1, and you get 8 different scenes. So I can record a second scene. When I come here and hit this button here, it goes to my scene 2. And there's actually nothing recorded in scene 2. So I can come here, come to scene 2, come to my piano, and let's see, we're going to do an 8-bar loop this time. Perfect. So we're going to hit record. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I got the first thing recorded there, and then I'm just going to add a bass to this part, and let's get out there, hit record. 1, 2, 3, 4. Messed up, so I'm just going to hit undo media, and we'll try it again. 1. All right, good enough for what we're doing here. And then I'm just going to record my drums next. All right, now if I want to, I could actually do a longer loop. I could do, I don't have to do 8 again. I could actually do 16 if I wanted to. And the other tracks would loop after 8 measures, and the drum would keep going and it would only loop after 16 measures. So you could actually add a lot of variation and stuff like that to various parts. So some parts can loop faster than others, and you can add variation in different parts if you want longer loops. But we're just going to keep an 8-bar loop for this one, and just hit record, and let's see what we got. Now I could quantize it on the way in, just like with the Korg Kronos, and pick my resolution of my quantization. I could quantize it afterward, or I could quantize it as it's going in, but for now I'm just going to leave the quantize off, and we'll see how I do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lost the timing there at the end, but that's okay. I could always hit undo media. Let's try it one more time. 2, 3, 4. So that's going to loop over and over again. So the cool thing about this is I have scene number 1 and scene number 2. So in scene number 1, this is what I have. And it'll just keep looping over and over again. Not come until I come here. All right, so let's, I'm going to pick one more sound here. Let's go, we're in scene number 2. Let me just grab a saxophone here. Boom. Woodwind. Sax. What are we going to do? Got some tenor. That'll work. Hit enter. So now we got the saxophone selected. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edit the saxophone really quick. I'm going to change it from poly to mono. So I don't have to hit 2 notes. So register 2 notes at once and come back out. And let's record 1. No, stop. So what I'm going to do is instead of doing an 8-bar loop on this one, I'm actually going to do 16 bars. Right? Here we go. So I didn't really necessarily like that one. Of course, I can just come and just hit undo if I want to, and then record again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Messed up again. We'll hit the undo. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So, you know, that's good enough. So anyway, now you have a saxophone that's going 16 bars and the rest of the instruments are going 8 bars. And you can literally switch between the scenes by hitting these buttons here. So this is scene 1. Turn the volume up on the sax. Anyway, you get the idea. So it's very, very fast. You get ideas down really, really quickly. And I like the fact that you can put them in these little scenes and stuff here. And yes, you could do a 16 bar loop, but you can go all the way to a 256 measure loop if you want to. So anyway, that's a basic overview of how the sequencer works in the MODX and the Montage. Now you can record various loops if you want to, and then you can kind of put them together, like chain them together in a song mode and get a complete song. But it is only a loop based recorder. So just want to let you know that. But now let me go ahead and give my opinions, and most of the stuff I say here will not be anything that is factual. It will simply be my opinion on the two sequencers. Now, if you are looking for a fully fledged sequencer that is capable of doing pretty much anything you could desire to do, and you want to do it in your hardware here, I would definitely go with the Korg Kronos. When the Yamaha MODX first came out, they didn't have a sequencer. They added a sequencer because people asked for one. Literally, they came out without one, and they just, it comes with the software, the Cubase software, and you hook this up to your Cubase. But people wanted a sequencer on board, and everybody was looking for an actual sequencer on board because all the Motif keyboards had a sequencer. And so Yamaha then added one, and since then they've made, a few updates to the sequencer. That's why it works the way it does now. So this is not really a fully, featured sequencer. But if you ask me my opinion on which one I, find more useful for my workflow and the stuff that I do, I actually prefer the sequencer in the MODX. And the reason why is I like the pattern sequencer. Full disclosure, I use Ableton Live, and so I like doing like the clip recording. And for the kind of playing that I do, like especially in church, most of the songs, and any songs almost anywhere really, but when I play with my band, I don't ever use the sequencer. I'm not ever really playing tracks normally when I'm in, my actual band, my cover band. But when I do need tracks, it's normally going to be in some sort of a church setting, or if I'm doing something alone all by myself. And most songs, they have, an intro, a verse, a chorus, an ending, so on and so forth. And I like the ability of being able to just hit these buttons and get to the scenes and get to the different parts of the song whenever I want to, and just recording the clips. It works very fast. It's easy to punch these buttons really quickly when you're performing live, and I can just, trigger these. And also, I find that the pattern, the RPPR way of recording on the Korg Kronos, I find it kind of, convoluted. I don't like the fact that when I'm recording a track, I can't hear what I recorded beforehand, and then you put it together and then you trigger the loops. You can trigger, the loops and stuff like that, and that works in a certain context, but it takes some creativity to have some loops that are going to be triggering, your verse and your chorus and so on and so forth. And the way you record those, you can't record them and hear back, can't hear all the tracks. So like when you watched it, you saw that I recorded the Korg Kronos, I recorded the drum part, and the drums are just going by themselves. And then you record the bass part is just going by itself. And then you record the piano part, and the piano part is just going by itself. You can't actually hear what you recorded previously when you are in that mode. So I don't find that mode the most intriguing to work in when I'm, in a creative space and trying to lay something down. So I actually prefer the sequencer in the MODX, because if I be honest, if I'm really going to sit down and do some serious tracking, because I'm going to be recording something that's going to go on Spotify, or somebody wants me to record some kind of professional tracks or something for them to sing to or something like that, I'm going to use a DAW. I am not going to use my hardware to try to do mastering and try to get everything all set up, trying to use these little screens and so on and so forth. I'm simply not going to use the Korg Kronos for that. Now, of course, if I'm just going to be laying something down really, really quickly, both of these keyboards can lay down, you can lay down stuff really quickly and whatnot, but I find it faster to lay down stuff in the MODX than the Korg Kronos. Now, of course, this is a pattern sequencer. It's not a regular linear sequencer, but the fact that I can have a loop that goes 256 measures, I can literally record in a linear fashion if I want to. I can record a whole song without it ever looping if I want to, and in the song, as long as it's not over 256 measures long. So I find that I can still record in a linear fashion if I want to. Right now with the Roland Phantom, the new Phantom, it limits you to a loop size of 32. So you can't actually really record in a linear fashion. You are stuck with 32 and then it will loop around. This gives you 256. So I can record in a linear fashion if I want to. And then I have 8 scenes. So I can have an intro, I can have a chorus, I can have verses, I can have things that repeat over and over again. I can, all kinds of different things I can do with this. I don't really need to record audio into my hardware. If I'm going to be recording audio, like I'm going to be singing, or if I'm going to be recording a guitar or a bass or something like that, I opt for using software to do that kind of stuff and not hardware. Now, that's just me. That's my personal preference. But when I'm going to lay something down really quickly, get some quick backing tracks ready for a live show, I find working in the MODX is just a lot faster. It's a lot easier. I like the looping function. I like the fact that I can listen back to what I recorded previously. It works really fast. You can just quickly undo what you had. You can, one can be, for a 4-bar loop, and something else can be an 8-bar loop, and something else can be a 24-bar loop. And you have all kinds of versatility when it comes time to actually playing live, because you just trigger the chorus, or you trigger the verse, or you trigger the intro, or you trigger the ending, or whatever you want to do. It's up to you. And so I actually prefer to use this. So even though the Korg Kronos has more features in it, I don't really need those features in my hardware, because I use software when I'm going to be doing something that's going to be very, very in depth. That's just the way I prefer to work. But as far as hardware is concerned, laying down something quickly, getting some quick backing tracks, this is my keyboard of choice. It would not be the Korg Kronos. I know that may make a lot of Korg Kronos users upset, but this is just what I use, because for me, it is faster to get things up and running and going, and easier to just click these buttons when it's time to, perform live. Because when I'm performing live, I'm normally singing and doing other things, and, cueing other, directing other musicians and stuff like that at the same time. I don't want to be fighting with my gear and hunting and pecking and trying to, okay, now I got to hit the C key, and I got to hit the C sharp key, and I got to hit the, that's not an easy way for me to work when I'm focused on other things, because I'm not just playing the keyboard. But again, it's not a fact. That is just a personal preference. But let me know what you think. How do you like to use the sequencers, or do you even use a sequencer in your hardware? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for sticking with me this long. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next video.